First of all, to those of you who came a week later after we had to postpone last week, so thank you for being here. And thank you to the candidates who are here. We have, now here's a mystery for you. We have 8 candidates. Let me see now. Let me get it right. We've got one more candidate than the positions. Well, I don't know. Think about it. You'll get that one. And the third thank you is to the library, to Janice and the staff and everybody for hosting us here tonight. We do this once a year for town and schools. We also do it once a year for the other kind of positions like county and state. And the format is pretty much the same. During the first roughly 45 minutes, each of the candidates has about 3 or 4 minutes, hopefully not longer than that, 3 or 4 minutes to tell us their name and to tell us what they propose to do in the position that they hope that they will be in. And that'll bring us up to somewhere around 7:45. And then from around 7:45 until 8:30, it's for all of you to ask whatever candidate that you want, whatever question you've got. If you can make your questions short, if the candidates can make their responses short, then a lot of people can talk about a lot of different things. That'll bring us up to 8:30. At 8:30, anybody that wants to is free to leave without guilt. just get up and walk out. But from 8:30 until 9, the candidates will be available to talk with you one-on-one or in small groups, however that should work out. I said that before, they'll introduce themselves and tell you about what they're doing. There is a table over here. If the candidates have any particular material that they want to leave, that's fine. What have I missed? What else is there?
Can you explain the number of slots and number of candidates?
No, I can't do that. I tried. That's right. It even eludes me. Okay, here's a hint. Watch really closely, and you'll see Joe get up twice to speak.
And Melissa, I was wondering if you could have the selectmen sit together.
Why would that be?
Well, just so that, because that's the most contested race, I think, isn't it?
Well, they will be all speaking together,
oh, okay.
one after the other.
Okay.
So I tried to put it so that they could be like that at the end. They'll be the last 4 to speak.
Okay.
Okay, Joe, you're on.
Hi, my name's Joe Pegnani. I've been living in Brentwood for 18 and a half years. I've been serving on the Cemetery Trustee Board as an alternate for the last 6 months. I have 15 years of cemetery experience. I live on Gallant Drive.
What was your cemetery experience?
I worked in New York for 15 years as a grave digger.
And you want to be selected because?
No, this is the
Cemetery trustee.
Cemetery, sorry. Cemetery trustee.
How long have you been doing it now, Joe?
Alternate?
Here in Brentwood.
6 months.
About 6 months. Okay. Okay. Good.
And running unopposed.
And I'm running unopposed.
And anything else that you can think of that you'd like to share with us about what you want to do in the position?
I want to help the cemetery look better and try and bring new ideas.
We have a couple of ceremonies at the ceremony during the year. Are you involved in any of those?
Not yet, but I will be.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Whoever's next, just go ahead and follow each other from the script that you've got.
I have no prepared remarks. My name's Chamberlain. I live over on Block Drive. And maybe I'll just give you a quick history of me and this library. It really goes back over 20 years when my wife, Deb, over here, and I were helping, I was trying to help her raise some money for a friend. And that's how I sort of got in it, and just sending out a large mailing and changing a little bit the way things were done there. And we had some success in that regard.
Can you speak up? We can't hear.
Okay?
And what are you running for?
I'm running for trustee of the library.
Thank you.
Oh, it doesn't say here. And, oh, well, it says trustee. That could mean trustee of a lot of things. But I first got involved with the library via a write-in vote in the year 2000. And ever since that time, I have been directly or indirectly associated with the institution. After I was the write-in, I had 2 times when I was elected. Then I took a sabbatical, but during the course of that sabbatical, I was appointed an alternate trustee. And I don't think I missed more than 2 or 3 meetings in all that 6-year period. And then I ran again 3 years ago, and was fortunate to be elected. And now I'm running again for another 3 years. My orientation at the library, as my fellow trustees will say, is much more towards the numbers than it is to the books. And so I have currently have the title of treasurer, and that's exactly what I hope to continue to do. I look around here, and Janice and I have learned to use some of the more modern versions of QuickBooks, and it's been an adventure. And I think that if you take that and put it together with the regular reports that we make to the trustees as board, and then involved very heavily in the budgeting process, that's about what I do here and what I would like to continue to do with your help and your vote.
Bruce, would you like to come on up?
Sure.
Thank you. No, that's okay, because I had you listed for number 1.
Oh, good.
That's all right.
I was over having an argument. Did it work? Well,
Yes.
we left as friends.
All right.
But, so I'm Bruce Stevens, and I'm running for my last term here in the planning board after about 40 years. And I just hope to keep the planning activities as boring as they've been for the last 30 years. We have some very tough, stringent regulations, stringent as any town around, and a lot more stringent than a lot of the state regulations. But we balance that with being, or at least most board members are big proponents of property rights. So we have very stringent regulations that will protect the town, and we apply them in a fair manner. It seems like more and more surrounding towns, when you listen to some of the broadcasts of their meetings, it's more about, as members, about how I feel about different issues, more so than applying the rules that the townspeople adopted over, well, about 50 years here in Brentwood. So we've never really been sued by anybody for doing things improperly. We have a great professional town planner that works part-time for us, that helps us keep up with the ordinances and reviewing the plans, which today are very technical. So I think that we've done protected the town as much as we can. We've been innovative in having workforce housing developments and senior housing developments. over the last 10 years. And we have some big project over there on North Road that everybody sees when they drive by the Three Ponds campground property. So, not a lot of contention. We are getting development. We'd certainly like to see some development along 125 in Brentwood, but that really won't come until we have some infrastructure like town water or sewage. And that's a long ways off for a small town like Brentwood. But we've had a lot more interest in the planning board in the last couple of years and have a full complement of alternate members. And things are going quite smoothly, and just kind of hope that they keep going along. No big issues that we know of. We certainly invite people to come to our meetings. We very frequently get many members come out and voice their concerns, but would hope that they would do that in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Who's that? You're on.
My name is George Vining, running for school board. I have a bachelor's in accounting and a master's in business education. I've been in the school business field for over 15 years as a school business administrator. I was president of New Hampshire ASBO, and I was also I also held a public accounting license and had my own business for 30 years. Some of the major accomplishments I've had as a business administrator was in Derry. We undertook renovation of one of the schools to replace the windows. Because if you ever was in a classroom during the winter time, the teachers would put their lunches on the windowsill to keep them cold. I estimated a 10-year payback. After the first year, the payback ended up being 3 years. That's how much heat loss we actually realized. There was also a fire in one of the elementary schools in Derry. It happened to be the same school my daughter went to. And during that time, I found out that we had 100% coverage on the building through the insurance company. Thanks to our insurance agent, we were able to have a construction company on site to start demolition the day after the fire. And then I was able to recover 100% of the cost from the insurance company, and I was able to bill the state for 100% of the cost for rebuilding the school. So 200% is not too bad. I'm not used to getting up in front of people. I was also the transportation director for SAU 10. Basically what that was, I had to play out all the bus routes, the bus stops, and anytime a parent came in and complained about a bus stop, I had to go out and investigate. I actually had a school bus driver's license at one time, and whenever we had a problem on a school bus, I got elected to drive the school bus to find out what the problem was. Kids were very surprised when they didn't go home, and I stopped in the middle of the road, and they wanted to know what was going on. But it was interesting. I developed the school budgets. I did them from scratch as being the school business administrator for both SAU 10 and the town of Methuen. And it was my responsibility to do it, pass it to the superintendent, have the interviews with the administrators of the schools, and then present it to the budget committees. My main priority is, of course, safety of the schools, safety for the kids. Get them to school, get them home safely, and also make sure that they are up to date and up to snuff on education materials that are being available, to make them current and to get the tools that the teachers need into their hands. We did this quite successfully in Derry and in Methuen. I was also president of New Hampshire ASBO. So if there's any questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, Melissa?
Right there. Yes, right here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes, you are.
Hi, I guess we all know each other. But my name is Melissa Litchfield. I have 4 children, married. I've been in Brentwood since 2007. I originally started out working just with the school, volunteering quite a bit, the parent-faculty group, helping out at extra day school, and then 6 years ago I decided to run for school board. I ran for the school board here in Brentwood, and then 3 years later I decided to run for the co-op. So I've actually balanced my household of 4 kids, my husband, and the 2 boards for the past 3 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I don't know, you know, before I came here, even when I pulled up, I didn't have a speech ready, and that's so not me because I'm usually prepared, but I don't know what to say because the truth is I'm very passionate about it. Most of you in the room know me. I have a nurturing side when I do the school board, but I have a firm side too, and I feel like it's a great balance because there's no nonsense in our meetings, for example, but we get things done. My degree is in accounting. I do care very much about the bottom line, but I try to be student-centered while watching the bottom line. My goal is always that our budget be, let's say, 1% or less is always the goal. We don't always reach that. Last year, though, I want to say we were at maybe 0.59%. This year, though, we're at maybe 2.5%. But for the most part, we are under 2%. We return $150,000 to $200,000 per year to the town. And I don't know. So some of the things that I feel like I bring to the table, I have kiddos in public and private school. So I love that because I have some kids here in the public school. I have some kids in different schools. So I feel like I'm a taxpayer with kids in the school system here at the elementary school, but then at the co-op, I also have a different point of view too because I'm coming in as if I were a retiree and I don't have children. So it's been nice to see things that way. As far as supporting the town of Brentwood, I just want to give you some examples of how I voted on different things in the past. For example, the CMS renewal, which I know that's been very contentious in the town of Brentwood or in all 6 towns. The very first year that they had it on the table, I am the one that made the motion at the co-op. And I said I would like to bring forward the CMS renewal along with the gymnasium for the, whatever it was, $22 million. And the reason why I did that is because I said that I felt that, you know, those of us on the co-op board shouldn't be making the decision for everybody else. I felt like you should all have a vote and a say, and you did, and you voted it down. So the very next year, they didn't change anything about it, so when it came time to vote, and the co-op to put it on the ballot as a warrant article, I was the one no vote. And I said, look, the taxpayers spoke, you didn't get your 60%, I don't even know, we were at 52%, I think, the first year. But I voted no, because I felt like that was what Brentwood wanted. This year, I voted to support it because the co-op board and the building renewal committee did go back to the table. They did rework it. They did bring it down quite a bit. So at this point, I support it. I think that's it. I don't know. You all know me, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just really passionate. I love what I do, and I think I do a really good job at it, to be honest with you. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
I think we're at the point now where we have something that apparently we had never had in Brentwood before, which is 4 people interested in one position. Yes.
Kevin's here. He's running for planning.
Yeah. Where are you, Kevin? Great, I've been trying to reach you. Would you come up and speak? Sure.
My name is Kevin Johnston. I'm running for the planning board. I've been a selectman. I've been a police officer for 16 years in town. Not anymore. And I've been on the planning board for probably 8 years. And I got some stiff competition running for the planning board. Not really, because there's nobody else running. But so I'd like to keep doing that to see how the town grows and keep it growing in the direction that we all would like. And does anybody have any questions for me?
We'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, you're gonna just do
Yeah, we'll
this
open it up
speech
a
thing?
little bit later to everybody.
All right, that's it.
Thank you. There are 4 people that are interested in the select board position. Joe, you're the first one.
Hi, my name's Joseph Bagnani. I'm running for the Brentwood Town Selectmen. Being part of the Brentwood Cemetery Committee, it has influenced my decision to run for the Selectman position. I reside with my wife Mary, my mother-in-law Mary, on the Lawn Drive off of Deer Hill Road. My twin daughters lived in Brentwood, grew up, and even one celebrated their marriage at the Pilgrim Church in 2013. My passion and love for the town is unbelievable. I see serving as an opportunity to represent the residents of all ages in the town government and provide a balanced and fair approach in making decisions for the good of the town and its people. I am a family man who works for people, works for the people, whether the concerns are tax cuts, keeping the town safe, providing the beauty and landscape. I promise to listen and act on Brentwood. I promise to listen and act on what Brentwood wants and needs.
Good evening. Lois DeYoung. I'm running for selectman. I've been in the town about 45 years. Most of you know me. I was 6 years on the school board originally and was on the original budget committee for 6 years. I was one of the most active things I did over the years. I was about 15 years on the BRC, the Brentwood Recreation Commission. When we started, the cellar hole was out there. And the committee that we had, we worked bingo. A lot of you may remember what bingo was. The town raised money for the fire association and the bingo and the recreation commission. We worked every Friday night in the smoke to raise money from the bingo. I think that committee has the top of the fire station, if I have it correct, the upstairs, the original fire station, and the building in the BRC. I worked on that committee every Friday, every 5th Friday for whatever it was, for 15 years, but worth every minute of it because we gave that facility to the town. It's been really worthwhile. We did Halloween parties, we did Christmas parties, and it kept me active in the town. My kids went all the way through school. They started in Brentwood, Swayze, and White High School. And then life went ahead, and I worked construction for a number of years, and I was also, for almost 15 years, I was a paralegal. Now I'm semi-retired, I would say, and I thought it's time to give back to the town. Brentwood's always been awfully good to us, and I think it's important that someone on the board have the town's unbiased best interest. I don't have any vested interest in the town. I don't mean any personal business, well, I shouldn't say that. My husband has a little something that he does in the backyard, but I don't want to call it. It's a business, but it really isn't a business, doesn't make any money. Boys Club.
There'll be some questions about that, Lloyd.
Yeah, well, I'm watching that one, you know. But it's great for retirement, they fix things, but don't ask me. I don't see any money, so I don't know what that's all about. But it's great to be home at this stage in life where I have time to give back to the town. Because, like I say, we love living here. We've been active members of the town, but mostly because Brentwood is a great little town. And right now we're facing some serious expenditures and things in several departments, as I'm sure you're all aware. And it's time we have someone that's kind of, that's been there but not there, not directly involved. And I put myself in that position. And I would like to have your vote because I think that I would make an excellent selectman because I am passionate about this. I work at it. I've been actively in all kinds of the political arena, and I think that we need, Brentwood is a town that needs, I want to be a part of it, and I want to help. Most of all, we have to watch our money, because like everything else, it costs money. And that's why I'm running, and that's where it's at.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Christine Belanger. I'm an Old Gordon Road resident, and obviously I'm a candidate for the 3-year position on the Board of Selectmen. I've been a resident of Brentwood for 47 years, and a property taxpayer like many of you for the past 26 years. I'm currently a committed employee for the town of Brentwood and have been for over 26 years. First serving as the deputy town clerk tax collector for 10 of those years, and a part-time police officer for 1.5 years. And for the past 16 years, I've been serving as the town of Brentwood's police department's administrative assistant. I've also served the Brentwood Citizen as a member of the fire department building committee years ago, the Recreation Commission, and presently I am a member on the Joint Loss Commission. I support fiscal responsible budgets that will impact taxpayers less while still providing the necessary funding required to operate the everyday operations of Brentwood, as it continues to support the needs of our taxpayers and residents and business owners with the necessary and required emergency services and other town departments. It is my opinion that there is importance in retaining employees. Taxpayers have invested thousands of dollars in personnel over the years for training and equipment in various town departments. Brentwood should not be a training ground and lose employees to other agencies or business entities. It is my hope that communication from the Board of Selectmen will continue to improve, and that during public meetings there be as much openness as possible. I do not believe in pushback. Citizens need to be kept up to date with municipal activities. I understand the importance of maintaining impartiality on matters pertaining to the town and its citizens. I am independent of other persons' opinions, proactive when necessary, and reactive when needed. I will continue demonstrating those attributes and will make decisions based on facts, needs, and what is in the best interest of the citizens. I strongly believe that the voice of any taxpayer or citizen, while being heard at a Board of Selectmen's meeting, be listened to respectfully, even in those instances that I may disagree on one's viewpoint on a matter. It is the voice of the taxpayer and citizen that needs to be heard. A smooth, open line of communication to any resident taxpayer is extremely vital for our community. The town employees and elected officials need to become more harmonious in order to conduct the operation of Brentwood's municipal business in the best interest of our taxpayers, citizens, and its employees. I am appreciative of the many boards and its members for the time that they take to be part of that process. I am asking for people's votes on March 12, 2019, so that I may continue to serve the citizens and taxpayers of Brentwood in a capacity in which I hope to make a genuine difference in our community. I stand for approaching decision-making in a common-sense manner and realize that the decisions I would make as a 1/5 member of the Board of Selectmen would most certainly have an impact and affect the daily lives of us all, being in business, monetarily, or socially. I have a sincere commitment and appreciation of Brentwood and its residents, business owners, and employees. Having a deep-rooted love for our community, I have grown up here, I have raised a family here, I've worked here, and I will stay committed to serving our community. And I look forward to seeing you all on voting day. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Ken Christensen. My wife Ellen and I moved to town in July of 1998. I went to my first town meeting in 1999 and was so impressed with the most purest form of democracy exercised anywhere in our country. We all get an individual vote, and I'm guilty of one of the deadly sins, pride. I was honored to serve as your select person for 6 years, 4 as chair. I served on the budget committee for 4 years, and I'm currently a member of the In fact, I'm the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I've been on that committee for approximately 6 years. I believe that you know enough about me, but let me tell you something about Brentwood. We have the finest elementary school in the state. Our children leave Swayze and they overtake the middle school without a doubt. Last year, we had 70 graduates of Exeter High School. We had 20 individual scholarships. We had 46 graduate from the School of Technology. And we had several graduates join the military, and we thank them for their service. In addition to the school, we have one of the finest libraries in the state. Thank you. Not only do you host us, but you host many, many other things, and you do a marvelous job. Lastly, we have a historical society that has gone crazy in the last 2 years. It is an honor to be a part of it, and by the way, I'm a lifetime member because I sent them my check for $100, and I hope all of you do. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates. At least 4 of you tonight have been kind enough to tell me that the trunk of my car is open. and I think I'd better tell you the story. 2 weeks ago, I'm driving down through the center of Exeter with the library on my right, and I went to make a left turn to go down that little side street where the Phillips Exeter bookstore is. And I was going to have lunch with a friend of mine at Phillips Exeter. The road was blocked by a tow truck that was getting ready to haul somewhere a post office truck, so I couldn't go ahead. And then somebody came up in back of me. He wanted to go down there too. So I had no choice except to back up. Well, he backed up, and I turned like that and started backing up, not seeing the telephone pole. It was right there with sheet metal wrapped around the bottom of it because I think I wasn't the first person. Recently, I've been thinking that maybe a better way to tell the story is that there was ice under my car and I slid into it. But what I did was that I drove over to the post office and parked my car there and left it to go have lunch with my friend. When I came back to the car, maybe your car does this too. Mine just loves to lock itself up as soon as I get out of it. And it had. And my cell phone was inside it. And the only door that I can get into the car through with the lock was the one that was bashed in. So I'm standing there, not able to get into the car with the cell phone inside, needing to use a restroom. Okay? So I walked down the street to the People's Bank. And I went up to the teller and I said, I have 2 questions that nobody's asked you today. 1, can I use your restroom? 2, can I use your phone? Yes, yes. So I called AAA, and a nice woman came in about 45 minutes and got me into the car. And I drove immediately to an auto body shop to get an estimate. It's a good auto body shop. I won't name it, but it's a good one. I like the people. But the estimate that came the next day was staggering. It was $2,300 for the door and the fender. And you know, and if you go to get insurance coverage, then they're going to increase your insurance for the rest of your life every year. So I ended up going to Atlantic Auto Body Salvage Company in the bowels of Lowell, which has got to be the furthest place in the world to go to, especially when you get lost trying to find it. And for $159, I got a door that's identical, apparently, to mine. And that's what is in the trunk of my car. And I can't close it. I can't close it because it sticks out. And I can't close the garage door at nighttime, or it'll come down on it. And nobody's broken into my garage yet. And that's my story.
Is that something Lois's husband can fix in the backyard?
That's a lot of his range. Golf carts and that kind of thing, small stuff.
Next Sunday, I'm leaving it at Car Works up in Lee. And on Tuesday, I'm picking it up, I hope. Okay, we're doing great, because this is even, you may get out of here sooner than you planned on. The next stage is anything that anybody wants within reason to ask any of the candidates. So folks, they're all yours. Yes, Liz.
of course I have a question. My question is actually for all four of the selectmen, really briefly. Since I've lived here about 14 years, my husband and I have been very involved in the politics, as most of you know, on the budget committee and school board and now selectmen. But I've never seen the town so divided, you know, police versus fire, newcomers versus old, in the school versus retired. I would like to know specifically what you would do to help welcome or address the needs of a group that you are not in. So if you have been here a really long time, how would you, as a selectman, include the people that have not been here a really long time?
Great question, Liz. Because that's a reality. Who would like to respond?
Because it's really sort of troubling to me, the
Well, I'll
state of affairs
start.
in town.
Okay.
Respect and dignity to all people, regardless of who they are, new, old, or indifferent. We have to start caring for our neighbor. And that's what I took so much pride in, serving on the board. We, to the best of my knowledge, as I sit here tonight, cannot remember a serious disagreement amongst the 5 members of our board for the 6 years that I served on it.
So, since apparently there is disagreement now, how would you deal with it?
Well, I would start with respect. A simple "I'm sorry" sometimes solves all the issues.
Somebody else? Anybody else who would like to speak to it that's interested in the select board position? Lois?
Well, I think he's got, the right word is respect. And in my case, I don't have the problem. I'm not part of any one of the groups. So, and I think that I can be neutral and unbiased, because that's what it's gonna take. We have to look at the whole picture. And we obviously have issues. We've had issues in the past. This is not new.
yeah.
This is not new. Old and new and young, and I was young when I've been here 45 years, and I was a newcomer, you know. And I've been on the other end of that too. And I also had kids through school, I was on the school board. So I think that you can take what your background is in, and not having, for that reason, I would think I would be a good candidate. And I honestly mean that, because I don't have, you know, anything at this point that would keep me to help the group to get together, because we have to work together. It's true in our everything in this country. We need to work together and respect and listening to one another. We gotta listen to each other, and then not. And I think I offer that.
Thank you, Lois. Anybody else want to respond to that? Yes, Jane?
Yeah, what would any candidate do to keep communication going between all of the selectmen during the week, so that any one person is not making all the decisions, and then when they get to meet at the board, there's many decisions that have been made before they got there without their knowledge.
Well, they shouldn't
Anyone
be
have an answer
making
for that?
decisions on their own because it's not legal.
Right.
As a majority.
Okay, Christine?
I think we're 1/5, so each person has a 1/5 say, and maybe just having an open line of communication amongst the Board of Selectmen, whether it's with the town administrator, communicating that information to the board members as needed.
Okay,
Just remember that you're 1/5 of the board.
that's right.
Do you think the chair should rotate?
I think that would be a decision of the board when it happens, if they vote on it.
It always did.
I understand.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't. I'm just curious.
Anybody, yeah.
One of the nice things about other towns is that the selectmen's meetings are all on local television. And I know that Butch volunteers his time to, you know, to take these and put them out. I'm just wondering if the selectmen have any ideas about making this an official website, or having that recorded, or even a live broadcast.
Would the chair of the selectmen like to speak to that?
We are in the process right now. We have, we're working on microphones, and that's something that we're in the process right now. looking into. We have a subcommittee that's been looking at cameras and putting in microphones, and like we found out that we do have speakers in the ceiling, but they're actually dummy speakers. We didn't know. They look like they were speakers, but they're fake. So they put them up there for looks. Yeah, so we have equipment and stuff that we've approved the budget for. It's just a matter of what equipment are we getting, when's it going to be able to get installed, all that other stuff. So that aspect has already been addressed.
How much does Brentwood Talks
Brentwood chats.
contribute to this?
Contribute to what?
Contribute to the polarization that I'm hearing about and so forth?
Of course.
The solution to what Bob alluded to is to get our equipment up and running, get it accessible to everybody in town, so they can see what goes on at the meetings if they can't get there. Of course, we encourage everybody to come to the meetings. That would be much better. We would have to then build a bigger building to have everybody in town come to meetings, so that probably is not feasible. But we would like to have our meetings, I think we'd like to have our meetings broadcast for everybody to look at.
Jane?
Yeah, this old lady remembers back when for years in our Brentwood newsletter, we always got a written summation of what went on for the month. It brought a transparency that we can't get right now. Like the sound, if you're sitting in the audience, you might get every third word out of what goes on at a meeting. So it makes it difficult. To go back to the, putting the PAs or microphones and everything in. But that summation from a selectman went a long way to keep things running smoothly and having taxpayers aware of what's going on with their money or their employees.
Your word of transparency is a good one. We had some difficulty a few years ago at Pilgrim Church where there wasn't the transparency that there should have been. And a number of people rightly got bent out of shape. And a lot of work was done to move beyond that, to really start to be transparent in a way that we hadn't been before. And it's a lot better now. Yes, Butch?
I'd like to ask each of the 4 people running for selectman, which of the 4, or if all 4, will commit to turning that selectman's table sideways so that when they're meeting and speaking to people of the town, that we can actually see you and hear you.
Butch, the very first meeting I attended as a selectman, I made that suggestion, and I was a total of 1.
I thought you said all 5 always agreed.
Well, we agreed on issues, but certainly turning the table, it's a multi-purpose room. The planning board, they have 8 members, and turning it would not facilitate their use.
Do they meet on the same night as the selectmen?
They do not. Is there a point there?
Yeah, you could turn the table back for their meeting if that's better for them.
Okay,
There were 3 other selectmen. I'd like to hear if they're willing to commit to that.
Okay.
I would commit to that. I would like to see the selectmen be facing the people so that they can hear exactly what they have to say.
I thought we voted to do that.
I thought we were going to do that.
Okay.
Can we talk about that?
All right, then I don't have to vote for it, because you've already voted for it, right? We're all in agreement. Okay.
We voted when we get the microphones
and
for 2
stuff.
tables.
I'll volunteer to help push the table on Tuesday nights if that helps.
There were 2 questions. Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is for Christine, because she's in a really unique position. So I want to hear Christine explain to people how she plans to remain impartial in any votes that might come up regarding the police department, because she's worked there for a number of years doing great service to the town. And she's also the daughter of Phyllis, who will be her board mate on the board. And I just learned that Butch Whitehouse, everybody's got a different last name, that Butch is part of the family as well. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your help. So for the sake of optics, for people that might not vote for you for that reason, maybe talk a little bit about what your plans are with any votes that might come up regarding the police budget or anything related to family decisions, things like that.
Well, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking it. What I will say is, yes, we are mother and daughter. I'm independent of my family's opinions. I make my own decisions, form my own thoughts. My mother being on the board is not going to sway how I might vote for or against something. If I am listening to information on a police budget, I wouldn't vote if it has to do with the budget. I know Andy and Jane at one time served on the board, mother and, mother-in-law and son-in-law.
And there's no law against that.
There is not. You have to use your common sense.
Right. And just as a follow-up, I'd like to hear from each of the selectmen, you know, with the topic that you raised, Dick, about Brentwood Talks and Brentwood Chats. People like to throw around the word transparency, but there's some transparency that we as the public really aren't entitled to. And that's information that comes out of a non-public meeting. So I'd like to really hear from all of the 4 candidates for selectmen what you would do if you learned that information disclosed in a non-public session was revealed by one of your board mates to someone that wasn't present in the meeting and wasn't entitled to have that information.
According to the law, Lynn, it should be reported to the Superior Court. If the judge accepts the petition, then that person must somehow present his or her case to the court. And if the court finds them guilty of disseminating information from a non-public meeting, they are ousted immediately by the judge.
And is that a vote that the board has to take? Or is that you as an individual board member?
Any citizen, any person on the board can make the petition to the court.
And Ken, can I just ask you, just so I get knowledge, maybe you know the answer, is it on the burden of the person making the complaint to the judge to prove that?
I would assume so in the form of the petition, yes. There has to be facts, of course.
Facts. Thank you.
We may continue, but Janice, you had something.
I just wanted to interject real quickly and remind everybody that we do have the selectmen minutes here at the library every week. So if you're looking to find out what happened at the meeting, go no further than right here.
I don't believe that these executive committee minutes go on in those minutes. I don't, at least wasn't when I was.
No, but the general minutes.
We'll go on executive sessions, exactly that.
But I think, excuse me, isn't there a law that you can open up those minutes after something's been disposed of?
I don't believe so.
Once they're sealed, I imagine.
No, you can vote to open them.
I think you can vote to open them.
You can vote to open them.
If the matter's been disposed of.
After, say somebody's died 50 years ago and you've got sealed minutes, you can, there's a law,
But that doesn't apply in this case. I was a paralegal for 15 years. And when it was executive session and everything that I was ever dealt with, once it was sealed, unless it's a relevance or someone, but as far as something, what he's referring to, that is private sealed information, and there is legal repercussion. You cannot do that.
I was actually referring back to the lady who was asking for the summation of the meetings. The public minutes.
I think, Jane, weren't you talking about the selectmen's corner or something in the newsletter though? Where they used to have a selectman.
And we had talked to Robin about that last week.
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing.
Next deadline is March 15th.
Okay, I see a couple of hands. I see one hand from Jane. Was there somebody else that wanted to speak? Okay, Jane. Oh, okay, and then Melissa.
I just want to say that selectmen's corner. It was nothing that would, whatever was executive session, never saw the light of day once it was voted on. Right. But the general goings on of the selectmen's meetings, and sometimes the minutes, you have to wait a few weeks to see what actually happened. I don't know if they do they do a draft now? And then
I'll speak for the town because I'm a pain in the neck with the town about it. The draft meeting minutes are posted usually on Mondays when Karen posts the agenda for the following week, and they've been doing that pretty much for the last year. And that was something the selectmen started last March. So thank you, Karen. but they're on the town website.
I thought well,
I did, you know
yeah.
what, I wanted to touch on the topic of the newsletter, and I kind of want to take it back and see what you all think about this, because I know we've struggled with this on the school board. Nowadays, with instant gratification and immediate notification, even before all the facts are out there, just in general, with the world as it is, you know everything immediately. With the Brentwood newsletter, for example, which, by the way, I'm very grateful that we have it, and I love it, actually. But that being said, one thing that concerns me, even for us, for writing in, I'm going to just give you a real example because it's the easiest way for me to do it, okay? So, for example, our co-op meetings are the third Tuesday of every month. Well, the deadline for the newsletter is the 15th of every month, okay? So I missed that deadline, right? So anything I put in there is probably 6 weeks old, and by then a lot of it's changed. So my only concern is when the Board of Selectmen, even when they're writing in, I just want you to think about it, that if the deadline is the 15th, but yet you get it a few days into the next month, I almost feel like some of that information could be stale, or it's evolved and changed. So that's my personal struggle. So, but I'm open to feedback because we are always looking for better ways to communicate, and I don't know how to do that because I'm not comfortable putting out there on social media. We've created policies around it because the threads can kind of get a little out of control when people don't have the background. So I don't know, I want to just, you know, how do people feel?
Is there a way that you can use the town website to put something on? At least you can get it sooner that way.
That is true.
Well, it's different than Selectmen too, because they meet every week. You meet once a month.
And we do post our meetings, like, you know, Butch said, we're posting those minutes. Draft minutes are even posted in less than a week. So.
Even that would make me personally, I don't love even draft minutes being, I would want to wait till the next day because the draft minutes have not been approved as yet, so you don't know if there are any errors.
We did that.
We asked the selectmen to post the draft minutes so that we could actually read the minutes before we came to the next meeting, because sometimes the answers to what was discussed at the meeting ends up in the minutes. So if you can't read the minutes until after the next meeting, you're behind everybody else that's on the board. So when the selectmen were asked in March, could you please post the draft minutes, they did that. So we can actually read the minutes before you go to the next meeting.
Who would make this decision?
Selectmen?
The board? The board? Well, I guess you've heard it. You've heard the request.
Well, we always do, we do that. We've been doing that since March.
We have heard the request and we have responded to the request, and we hope to get a little bit better and very.
If we can get I think once we get the microphones, the cameras, I think it'll give Butch a break.
It takes a little time, you know, to turn an aircraft carrier, it takes a couple months.
It does. Liz?
I have a question. Has the select board found success in the meet the select board member? Was that in every other Wednesday or something like that?
Still going on.
Still going on? Do you have, is it successful?
It has been in time, sometimes, and sometimes it gives me an opportunity to go through documents that I haven't had a chance to look at. You know, quick sign this, but then I can go back and review. But yeah, I think people in town are beginning to realize that somebody is there. People have come to me and said, you know, I can't get there at night because I'm working at night, or I can't get there because I have to take care of my kids. But it's nice to have somebody here during the day and I can get. So I've had people come to me for that. I've had people come to me and say, you know, I wanted to tell somebody what I thought, but I didn't want to say it in a big meeting. It's like people are sometimes intimidated by that. So yeah, it's worked out. I expect it will get better, and I hope to have all the board members rotate with me in that position.
I was just going to say, you're the only one
you know,
doing
I've gotten
that.
to the point now where I really like being there, and I like having that opportunity to talk to people.
Liz, I'd like to give you an opportunity to say anything as our representative, if you might like to.
Geez, I'm not sure, because I'm in a little bit of a different position in terms of town matters. You know, so at the State House, the things that we vote on can eventually affect our town in terms of what we do for budgets and what money we give back to the towns or take away from supporting the towns. I'm just happy that, we as a community, you know, are getting together to talk about all of these things, because obviously with any kind of election, whether it be a state election or a local election, it really matters that the people that are representing you have reached out to you and understand where you're coming from and I mean, not that I believe everybody has the town's best interests at heart, but it's also listening. It's a listening thing, and that's why I love to be here, to hear what people have to say about the town and what their needs are.
Liz, there was a discussion the other morning on 89.1 FM, the 9 to 10 o'clock show, about the governor's proposed budget. And part of the discussion dealt with the possibility of more money coming back to the towns to try to help out with stuff like lowering the total budget so that the property tax might be changed and so on. Anything about that?
Well, one of the things that we just voted for in the House. Now, granted, in the legislature, the House has bills that they're proposing, and as does the Senate, and they have to cross over, and eventually they mix together. But right now, one of the House bills has been to look at what the state has done for school building aid. They're looking to put more money back into school building aid in the next few years, because that had been stopped over the last couple of since 2011, I believe. But then the other thing that we also did was talk about the state was cutting away at what their contributions were to retirement funds and for municipal workers and healthcare funds and things like that. And so we're looking at slowing those cuts. I mean, the cuts have been huge anyways, and we all have felt that in our taxes, because our property taxes go up every time the state decides they're not going to fulfill their what they had said with their obligations years ago. So we're hoping to change that, to reverse that. But that all depends on the budget and what we can do with what the governor proposes.
Did I hear that there was a possibility of $100 million in the budget for school aid across the state?
Well, there is $100 million in business tax cuts that business profits tax that had happened, and the legislature was looking to reverse that, to say to the governor, you're not going to have that opportunity to do that over the next few years, and therefore money could come back again to the towns in terms of property tax relief. But that's all, you know, that's all, that's right now, that's what the House is looking at. And again, so the Senate we have to cross over the bills, and the Senate has to look at those things too, and it has to be passed by both houses with a veto-proof majority, which right now there is not in the House.
Thank you. Other questions of the candidates? Oh.
Wow, that's
Oh, nothing? This is your chance when everybody else is here and they're up here. Because what we'll do, if there aren't more questions, then we'll conclude, except for the fact that the candidates are willing to stay here until as late as 9 o'clock. But if they stay after 9 o'clock, Janice and the staff have to roll out their sleeping bag. Questions? Any more questions or comments or suggestions or hopes that you have? Okay, well then I will thank you.
Actually, Dick, I have one other
Liz.
comment, if you don't mind. There are some people that believe that Brentwood Talks is a Brentwood website. It's one administrator's website with a lot of outside, a lot of non-Brentwood people commenting and making whatever they want to say on it. So that's just one, and if the administrator doesn't appreciate your views, you are banned from the site. So that's one thing. Brentwood Chats, which is a much smaller site, is only Brentwood residents and or businesses. So Brentwood Chats is, but neither one are town endorsed or speak for the town. One, Brentwood Talks, is pretty one-sided, and then Brentwood Chats is much smaller, but is more local,
The town doesn't
Jane,
have
did
a
I see your
Facebook
head going
page.
up and down?
Which is right.
Yeah, yeah.
So just for the,
Yeah.
so, because people think that, you know, why is this on Brentwood Talks if it's a, you know, if it's something that's,
Well,
you know,
thank you.
for the town, and it's not, the town didn't put it out.
Thank you for that clarification. Did I hear something over here?
Town does not have a Facebook page.
Town doesn't have a Facebook
We do
page.
not have a Facebook page.
Okay.
You have your individual opportunities to go on either site and engage
Well, no,
with
you
them
can't.
in
If you're
whatever
banned from
way.
the site, you can't go on the site.
Okay,
I
well,
don't know that people have been banned.
well, folks, again, the three thank yous to the candidates, to yourselves, and to the folks at the library. And this now is free time. Go get them.